Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. As you can see, today I'm in the kitchen with a guest. I was sent a book, in fact 2 books, by one of my lovely viewers, and I have to say they were so brilliant and so informative that I had to get the author in. And his name is Gary of the House of Fraughen.
That's it.
Hello, Gary.
Hi.
Lovely to meet you.
Nice to be here. Nice. It was log burner and
pretty
cosy, and
it is a miserable day outside.
it's been an interesting drive.
And I'm now beginning to think I shouldn't have put my jumper on because, as you say, the log burner is on and we're sweltering. Your books, absolutely fascinating, full of truth, full of unveiling, I would say, things that many people hadn't even thought about, hadn't even noticed. And let me just show, I'll put a close-up in as well, but it's called Putting a Stopper in the Bottle of Death and the Occult. And you have a second one, Putting a Stopper in the Numbers of Death and the Occult. So I've got to ask you then, how would you describe the books yourself?
Well, I woke up to the madness 2001. So yeah, I've been in the game quite a long time, and I realised that I spent 6 years thinking I was going mad, and then I realised the only thing you can really do is plant a seed and walk away. If it germinates,
yes,
fine. If it doesn't, fine. It's not time. But you've got to plant the seed and do your best, do the heavy lifting for others,
yes,
and then just maybe point them in the right direction. And if they're ready to go, they're ready to go. If they're not, all well and good. But the book. I was driven to write the book because shouting at people doesn't help.
No, absolutely. And I found that with my son, actually, when I was trying to convince my son that there were things going on that he ought to know about. And the more I told him, the less he was inclined to believe anything. And in fact, you know, I kind of made a mistake there because he now thinks I'm a complete conspiracy nut and he's not open to anything.
Well, we all are, aren't we?
Yes, well, that's true. We are all. So I thought it'd be great to discuss some of the themes in your book, and I know you've got a lot of stories to tell us. Where would you like to start?
Well, the important thing with the book, I got a lot of negative about using the word occult on the front.
Right.
Now, occult just means hidden.
Yeah.
From when in Araby they were operating on people, and we have occult organs, and they still call them occult organs because we used to have to cut into them, see what was wrong with them.
Right.
Well, now we've got CAT scans and
yes,
CT scans and all that sort of thing.
Which aren't necessarily helpful.
But occult just means hidden.
Right.
And it's about unveiling things, and I try to just unveil things for everybody and shove them in the right direction, yes, and let them go.
So just give us an indication of the sort of things that you unveil, just so that people have got a measure of what the book's about.
Well, the cream one's about words, the second one was about numbers.
Right.
I intend to get through probably about 10 books. I'm just about to finish
wow,
a third called The New World Order, which I've traced back to... It goes a long way back, and it's all about evidential proof, because I'm all about proof. And if I can't find more than 4 to 6 points of reference, yeah, then I don't go there.
What was interesting before we started filming was that you told me that you tend not to use the internet.
Yep.
And you tend to use libraries, but private libraries.
Private libraries. And
I thought, oh, what do you mean by that? And you, because people have collections of books.
There's thousands of private libraries in the UK. I've gone to private libraries in Petra in Jordan. I've gone to private libraries in Cambodia. It's about my sort of holidays are not like everybody else's
I
holidays.
can imagine,
really.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's about doing the reading.
And people are quite open to let you come in to have a look at their library?
They're quite pleased,
yes,
you know, because they've got these beautiful things. I call them, in my home, where there's a flat surface, there's a pile of books. Yes. And I call them ornaments of information.
Yes. Well, I mean, you saw my front room, which is stacked up.
Yeah, I wanted to go through it and have a look and see what you got.
So see what I've got. Yeah. There's books in front of other books, and the weird thing in mine is I pretty much know where each book is. There's no order to them, they're random, but as I go around and I do take books off and I read a paragraph and I put it back, subconsciously I've mapped the room.
Well, they're wonderful things, and we were discussing reading earlier, weren't we? Never read under an electric light because it flickers. So really, you want to. The lux and the lumen is on and off and on and off, and a lot of people that don't read very much, they find themselves reading a paragraph and then they have to go back and read again.
Yes.
And that means the light's affecting you. So really, the way to read is by candlelight, because the lux and the lumen is constant.
And it's so romantic.
Well, if you've got shaving mirrors set up with like 10 candles, your reading will speed up.
Wow.
Fourfold.
So the shaving mirrors are there to reflect the light back?
Yeah, on the pages.
On the pages?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's I'm going to have to do that as a video,
Yeah,
demonstrate
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and burn the house down. Oh, no, not at all.
But books are really interesting in terms of, when you pick up a book, a lot of people say to me when they read my work, they can hear my voice, because I try to write.
Well, I probably will now that I've met you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's true. When I've got some books by Roger Scruton.
Right.
And I used to watch Roger Scruton interviews. And so now when I read, you hear the author's voice, don't you? And
Yeah.
I think that's...
Well, that's your soul. Because this thing here we're travelling in, because I've just borrowed this thing, this...
It's a very nice thing, by the
Well,
way.
it's a bit hammered. I've had a good time.
Have you?
Yeah, I've had a very good time.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, your soul is the voice in your head when you don't talk, because it's the same sound.
Yes.
That's you.
That's you, yeah, because it's and I've been saying in the videos towards the recent times, I've been saying, you know, when I've been explaining that we're kind of, well, I've explained 3 identifications for us. One is the spiritual, unnamed spirit inside, the voice in the head. This flesh and blood thing that people think is us, and then of course the legal fiction, which is completely not us.
The person.
The person.
Yeah.
And of course you talk about that in the book.
Yeah,
you
the
talk
difference between that and the man with a womb man, and
Yes.
titles and all that. But I wrote that quite a while back. You know, I wrote that a good few years back. But it's done its work, as it were.
So here's a question that I get, and I've had in recent months quite a lot of people saying that these people who talk about sovereignty being in their own standing, not status and things like this, do they practice what they preach? And people will know that I did a video the other day talking about maybe we should rescind our driving licence, because if we are free men, we ought to be able to drive without hindrance, and those thugs in uniforms should respect that. And then a lot of people go and says, don't try it, Richard, it happened to me and I've had my car impounded or indeed squashed. And of course it's very difficult then to lead the life that's being shown to us, because there's more of them trying to stop us doing that.
I mean, I'm a perfect example. I got a chartership. You know, I'm a charter surveyor, so I'm operating in Admiralty Maritime. So, and that's my slave job. But this stuff I'm doing is to just get it's about the collective. If we can get enough of the collective to think in the same way, then we just say we're not in contract with them, offer acceptance and consideration. Contract is everything in this existence. And if we just say no, then no means no, doesn't it?
No. And I suppose it's that thing about joinder as well, of people wanting to identify you. And I always say, well, this is my identity. If you're looking at me, that's as near as you can get to it. You can't get inside my head, so you can't see my spirit.
Well, there's the question. I say to people, where do you live?
Yes. Now, I'm just trying to remember his name. He was here sitting exactly where you are,
right,
a lovely chap. And he said, I live in my body.
That's right.
And I thought, do you know what? That is genius. And so true. And so do I live here? Well, I stay here quite a lot, but I actually live inside the body.
Well, I was in court once and I was asked that question by the
Were you?
by the black robe wearing individual. Where do I live? And I said I live where the sky meets the land.
Wow. What was the response?
That was a difficult one. Yeah, I've been shot down quite a few times, but that's just learning a different way of not to do it.
Yes.
But eventually you get to the point where you start having fun, and as soon as you shake that bad energy off, and you're not in fear,
well, that's the thing.
Then you can really start having a good time with it, you know, and you can really start going with it. But you know, the words are terribly important. I mean, one I used earlier on with some of the interviews was therapist. You've got to put the hieroglyph in. We've got to go back to speaking Latin. Latin was the purest language. The English language is absolutely shredded with deceit.
Right, and that's a shame for me, because I love the English language and I love the eloquence of many of the words. And as I said to you, I read aloud often to the lovely Julia, and we enjoy books and things. We don't have a television, and I know you don't.
Yeah.
And that's a shame that the English language is full of deception.
Well, once you see the deception, it's okay.
Right.
But you've got to understand the deception to then use it.
Yes.
It's like playing with a box of matches.
That,
You can,
yes,
you
you
can
can
either
still
use
the
it under
matches.
control, or you can really cause a bit of a problem for yourself.
Yes.
So it's about us. They don't teach little ones in schools anymore. Latin. Well, they removed Latin in 1967 when they got rid of the gold standard. So.
Right. So just I mean, I was born in '63, and would have gone to school in about '68, something like that. So yeah. So I would have missed
but
it.
You've got to put the hieroglyphs in, and if you take the word therapist, if you've got to put the hieroglyph in, it's the rapist.
Because when you say the hieroglyph, just explain what
it's just a dash.
It's just a dash,
yeah.
Right? Like a hyphen.
A hyphen, in effect. And because that's what they do. They rape the mind to rebuild it. So it's not a negative thing, but you've just got to understand where these terms come from. It's like we're all shouting and hollering about parliamentarians at the moment.
Yes.
But Parliament, when pirates didn't want to have a fight, they'd parley. And ament is an old Hebrew word for lying. So Parliament means talking lies.
Yes, and if people can't see that is what's actually going on, because, and I go on about this every time you come to an election, they come out with their begging bowl and tell you all the wonderful things they're going to do.
Pick up a child and kiss it,
and all of that nonsense. And I just think to myself, hang on a minute, I've been around 60 years, I've probably been voting for 40 of those, and each time they've said we're going to improve the NHS, we're going to protect the borders, we're going to sort out education, and you think, well, in 40 years you haven't done it.
Well, because they do pledges, they don't promise. They have a pledge.
So tell us about pledges.
Well,
then.
pledge generally is something that you're going to try to do, but not do.
But not do.
If a government said we promise,
yes, then they've broken.
And it's like the money, but we'll talk about money in a little while.
Yes.
I promise to pay the bearer. It's a promise.
Yes.
It's not. I pledge to pay the bearer.
Right. Yes. So pledging is something you're trying to do, but if you can't do it, it doesn't matter if you don't do it.
Hey ho.
That's life.
Yeah. That's just the way they operate.
Oh,
and
right, that's interesting.
And any time I'm looking at a politician at the moment, I'm getting this. I see things very differently, and I listen to things, and I get these ideas in my head. But all I see these politicians now is we can't have peace breaking out. We can't have peace breaking out, because if we did, everyone would be happy.
Yes, they certainly
But it's all about hurt, harm, and injury with them. It's about having us fight amongst ourselves, having us fight amongst. We just need to say to these people, go away. We don't need you anymore.
I'm falling in love with you, Gary. Not in a sexual way or anything like that.
I'm Mandy at weekends. You can say whatever you want to me.
You're talking my language with all of that. I've been banging on about we need a different system, that government is just not, it doesn't work. And now, I mean, if people can't really see the two parties, there's a fag paper between the two, and one wants some form of communism and the other one wants an even extended version.
They all go to the same schools, they all mix with the same. The estate I grew up on, where there's a lot of shooting, is very different from the estates where they grow up, where there's a lot of shooting.
Yes.
They're all in the mix. They're all in the mix. Nothing gets better, does it? Nothing improves.
No, and I mean, you do look around, and if government was there for the people, the policies, even though policies is a horrible thing, you would think they would be beneficial, but everything seems anti-human.
Yeah.
They just seem
corporation.
Yeah,
because they own everything.
And
BlackRock and.
We're turning into corporate Britain. And then I did an interview with a chap about the NHS, and he's saying, well, it's being privatised by the back door.
It pretty much is privatised.
And that's the idea. They want to run it down so that then the people go, well, we better have an insurance policy like America, and it will be worse than ever it was thought about. And so we can see that's the route that they're going with that.
Well, the NHS changed when they got rid of the matrons, and then you had inspectorates. That was the point at which it became corporation, because the matrons used to run the wards like a fearmonger.
And we all remember Hattie Jakes.
We all do.
Well,
we? Of a certain age.
Oh, no, matron, stop mucking about.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're right, the matrons, I mean, and of course, where's the humour now? You couldn't do a carry-on hospital type thing now. It's just so sad.
Non-PC, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I work on building sites, and it's the humour that keeps you going in the wind and the rain and the sun. It's the jokes and the tearing into each other is what keeps people going.
And that's very much a British. I mean, I'm sure other people do it across the world, but it's very much a British spirit. And I don't see yet that they've managed to get rid of that. But what they're doing to the youngsters in schools is very, very worrying.
And use the term youngster, because don't forget, everything's about corporation and death. Because if you look at the word children, Chinese, the word for child is ren. So chilled ren.
Chilled ren.
A cold child.
Wow, as in dead.
As in dead.
Yeah.
Which they are, because they're in corporation.
Yes. Gosh. See? There you go. All these, they're like little puffs of smoke that suddenly come up, Gary. That's interesting. Yeah, so Julia and I, she has a boy, 2 boys, and so we desperately now, thanks to David Edelman and his wonderful book No Place for Children, School, we desperately don't mention the pair that rent, or chilled ren. Yeah, that's fascinating.
And it's all about. And I wrote the second book about numbers. I was going to jump to the birth certificate and what to do, but that's not the urgency. The urgency is half our language. Numbers are half our language. And I did a talk on Saturday in the Docklands, and I said we're a society where we say we haven't got a head for numbers. Well, we're embarrassed to say I can't read. I haven't got a head for I haven't got a head for reading. Can't read.
Yes.
But we seem to say that with numbers. But it's half our communication. It's half our understanding of debt, taking out agreements, exchanging numbers are the big driver. And if you hear the government at the moment talking about the amount of debt, you know, we spent $3 trillion, and again I discussed this at the weekend. If you take a $100 bill, put it on the floor, and then another one, and another one, and another one, how high do you think a million is? You'll get it wrong, but
yeah. Let me think. Is it
$100 bill?
$100 bill. A million of them. It must be skyscraper.
No, back of the chair.
Back of the chair.
Back of a chair.
Wow. Okay. So not as high as one would think.
So what about a billion?
A billion.
You were pretty getting right at the first.
Oh right, a billion. My roof.
Burj Khalifa in Dubai plus 200 feet.
Wow. Okay.
So we've done a million.
Yeah.
That's a billion.
That's a billion. That's a
big difference.
Yeah.
And we sit there not understanding these things because.
That's right.
What about a trillion? When the government says we've just spent $3 trillion.
Well, I know that a trillion is an inordinate amount of money. And
promissory notes.
Yes, beg your pardon. Promissory notes. I have no idea. Trillion.
The space station from Earth 2.5 times.
My goodness.
So when the government says, "Yeah, we've just spent $3 trillion," blah 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 blah, I'm thinking differently. I'm thinking not back of the chair stuff. I'm in panic. Because when I was born in '67, I was in debt to the state, in effect, for £47,000. Any little one born now, they're going to be in debt to the tune of about 69,000.
So just explain how that works.
Well, with the birth certificate system, when it works with the registration, we then become the commodity, the sweat equity that the government lends against us. When you emigrate, the hold-up isn't about is the person decent to come into a foreign nation.
Oh, I see.
We're working out how much
you're worth.
What your net worth is given your age. That's why you can't emigrate if you're more than 50.
Oh, I see. Well, I can't.
Because your corporation's kind of like worn out unless you've made your money or made your fictional pile.
Yes.
So all this stuff's going on, and it's just about breaking these codes of these things. And money is extraordinarily. Have you got any money on you?
I do. When you say money, I've got a promissory note.
Promissory note.
Yes.
Yeah, we're both correcting each other
I
because
know.
we've been in the game too long.
It's but this is the thing. It's so easy to use these familiar terms.
Well, you've got a fiver there. On the back.
Right.
On the back, you got Churchill. Read what's below his bow tie.
His bow tie. I'll have to take my glasses off. It says here, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat." So that I'll do a close-up so people can see. But that is, you know, how many people have even noticed that?
Not iced.
Not iced.
Yeah, because we're in corporation, we're dead. When you get a thing from the government,
yes.
they're taking you off ice. They want you back to deal with.
Oh, I see.
So that's
not iced.
It's not a notice.
It's
You're not on ice.
ice.
Sent
So-
from an off ice.
Right.
Because they're off ice.
They're off
You're
ice.
not no longer on ice
As in being dead, you've suddenly been warmed up.
because they want to exchange this
That
stuff
is-
out of you.
yeah. So that's I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. That's a £5 note.
And you got a tenner.
Yeah, this one has. Who have we got there? That's Florence Nightingale, isn't it? No,
It is.
Jane Austen. I declare that there is no enjoyment like reading.
Got to do your book learning. You've got to do your book learning. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know the difference between
That's what
corporation
they
and
mean.
person, man.
Yes, yes.
Whereas the first one is like, you're going to have to work hard.
Oh, I see. So these are messages
Yeah.
telling you, and then they're not just random quotes. I mean, they appear
They've
like random.
pierced them. They've brought them together.
That is-
And then if you take a 20, light is therefore colour.
Light is therefore colour, yeah.
Because the illuminated ones know about all this stuff.
Right. Yes.
So, and then you jump to the old 50. I sell here, sir, what the world desires is to have power.
Wow. I'm afraid I don't.
And
have
we're
an
exchanging
old
this
50.
stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
So this is so this has an energy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because sometimes you can't afford something. You hand one of these over and you go, oh, it's my last tenner.
Yeah.
They are energy things, without doubt, because that's your sweat equity, isn't it?
Yes,
they're
that's
using.
true.
And then on the new 50, this is only a foretaste of what is to come and only a shadow of what is going to be.
Only a shadow of what's going to be. So, you know, is that
That's a warning.
A warning for the CBDCs.
Yeah, it's a warning.
Blimey.
So that's
you know, now some people will say, "Oh, you're seeing things that aren't there."
Fabulous. I take on the I'll argue about anything for free. Okay. and
Love it.
But once you see these occult things that are
Yes.
happening, and you start piecing them together, it becomes more than a coincidence.
Yes.
It becomes kind of like these guys, and you've got to hand it to them, haven't you? They have been genius in what they've done.
Well, absolutely, and over such a long period of time, and over different generations. That's the thing that's hard to get your head round.
Well, we've always, people like me. You know, I'm a builder. I can do a bit of paperwork with it. So you know, I've got a few certificates, but I don't need a 25-metre swim certificate to swim 25 metres.
No.
Being an autodidactic doesn't mean you need to be a legaler to dance in their courtroom.
Right.
So it's just about knowledge, and once you shake off the fear, your vibration changes. That's what
Yes.
I find.
Yes, well, I think you're right, and we've seen fear has been ramped, and it's still being ramped all with these wars overseas. That we're being, I mean, this is the thing that people send me emails all the time with links to various things, and in recent months I've been saying please don't, because I don't have to. I spend more time saying thank you very much for the link. I'll check it out when I can. I spend more time answering those emails than actually getting
doing the
time.
work.
Yeah, to do, which is not what people really want, but. I decided when the Ukraine war, so-called, started, again, so-called, a couple of years ago, I wasn't going to get involved because I can't do anything myself to change anything there. I'm going to concentrate on the learning for me in this country and with everyday people that I meet. And then, of course, we've seen the Middle East stuff. And again, I've just taken, I don't want that fear and I don't want that worry, again, for people. I mean, clearly, the innocent people on both sides, I feel for.
Yeah.
But if you can't do anything, I don't need to see the misery all the time and then feel miserable.
But it's our governments that are doing this, you know, and we're paying taxes for them to do this.
Exactly.
So we're at fault. We're at fault.
By paying them.
By paying them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Chris Coverdale, do you know Chris?
No.
He has, he uses the legislation against them, their own legislation, and he's found legislation that says it's actually illegal to fund terrorist
That's right.
activities.
Absolutely.
And because of that, you shouldn't be paying your taxes and stuff because they're not going to your local area, and inland reps all going to this consolidate fund, as far as I can see. And we haven't voted to spend that money on wars.
Well, all our money in taxation should be spent locally where you are.
Yeah.
And you can argue that a poorer village won't do as well as a bigger village, but then if the bigger village recognises other villages around, then they can help.
Yes.
So it's about getting rid of centralised power from the top.
Yes.
You need to go from the bottom up, and we need councillors. I mean, they're earning 250,000 a year. They're earning more than the Prime Minister, some of these people.
Blimey, yeah.
And
not that he needs the money.
and I don't know about you, but I seem to hit potholes every 5 minutes, and the pavements are a mess, and
Yeah.
shops are all shutting down everywhere because.
Well, do you know, I was. This is an aside, but I was thinking of going up and down the road that I live in is in two bits. It's two roads, but it's one long road with, I suppose, about 300 houses in, something like that. And I did think about going up the road and knocking on the doors and saying to people, look, the roads are terrible. The council are not doing anything. Why don't we work out how much it would cost to have it surfaced? Go to a company that's professional that does that, get the estimate, then work out how much we each have to contribute, get them to do it, and then deduct that from the council tax and say, we've done it. And we've probably done it cheaper than you could do. And I was thinking about doing all this, and I went away for 3 days. I came back, they'd bloody done the road.
You sent out the energy.
I sent out the energy.
They went into panic.
Yeah.
They went into, oh no,
So-
Richard's Robes is going to repair everything that
So
we should be repairing.
it was an irony, but that sort of taking back responsibility for our plate, and you mentioned the wood burning stove, which you can't see, it's just over there. The thing that I love about that is I buy my wood. I've said this so many times. I buy my wood from a chap called John, my woodman, who gets his wood. He has a contract on one of the estates on the South Downs, 3 miles from here. He brings it in. I pay him. The money stays in the local economy. Doesn't go to the big six. It's not being sent overseas. And I heat my house. I cook on it. I dry the clothes. They're usually hanging in here. And it gives me a certain level of independence, and I love that.
But legally, you're allowed to take wood that's down in forests.
Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to live in a forest, and
You've done everything, Gary, haven't you?
I've ticked a few boxes. Yeah.
And so legally you can do that.
Yeah.
If it's fallen.
Yeah, and
So it's like the old commons rule that you can, back in the medieval day, you were permitted to pick up fallen wood. You can't go chopping it down.
Yeah. And even then, they were conning us back then, because another big one I use in one of the books, I mentioned the word weddings. We think a wedding is... I've been through a wedding, but I've been through a horse breeding ceremony.
Yes, and I have read that, but explain to me.
Well, so when we had slaves and masters, you needed to ask permission for breeding. That's where we get the term animal husbandry from.
Right, oh, okay.
So... And to breed, everything's looked at. The female is regarded as a horse, a mare, and what do you need to look after?
A groom.
Who's
Yes.
top hat and tails.
Yes, like the hunters.
Like the hunters, and to control the female mare, you have to put headgear on her.
Bridle.
Bridlery.
Yeah, bridlery.
Bridle
yeah,
wear.
of course.
And if she's uncontrollable, that's where we get the term nightmare. and if the 3 trimesters don't happen, then there's nothing in the carriage. It's a miscarriage, and that's why there's all horseshoes at weddings. It's not luck. It goes far deeper.
Far deeper, yeah.
And that's kind of all the stuff I explore and delve into. And I'm gentle with some stuff, and I'm quite brutal with others. And there's in book 2, there's a particular section about the interventions.
Oh yes, that we went through in 2020, 2021 when it came available.
And that's causing a real stir.
Yes.
I'm getting all sorts of threatening letters about that.
Are you?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I did a video this morning. The World Council for Health has been out and about, and they've been talking to people whether they've been harmed by these medical interventions. And they said that more people now are willing to at least talk about it. And so my video this morning was, are they waking up? Are they beginning to, as everybody now is beginning to find somebody who's had something happen to them as a result, because so many people were. And that's...
They painted themselves in a corner. We know who they are now. We know what they are now. And I ran around like a headless chicken trying to stop people making a wrong choice, as it were.
I'm going to offer you a glass of water
I'm
at the
good,
same
I'm
time.
good.
Are you?
Yeah. You provided me with so much coffee.
Oh, sorry about
Yeah,
you. Yeah, don't want to race up to the little boys' room, but
No, I'm good. So yeah, they've pressed the button. It's happened. The worst is over.
yeah.
The worst is over.
Well, that
It's
is good news
done.
because we keep hearing so many things: alien invasions. People are wondering about all these migrants that have been put up very.
Whenever the
expensively.
government bans something, there's a reason behind it. Like they ban smoking.
Hmm.
If you smoke, your immune system is on fire all the time. So your immunity is not dropped or settled. It's on fire all the time.
Not literal fire.
Not literal
from the
fire.
smoke.
Yeah. So and everyone's talking about these holograms and stuff like that. Well, think back of what something the government banned. Laser pens.
Oh yes,
Because a laser
that's
pen
right.
will shine straight through.
Ah,
A
yes,
hologram.
a hologram. Fortunately, you can still get some laser pens for your cats. So,
But
yes.
they're not strong enough.
Oh, they're not strong enough.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's interesting. So, in other words, if we start seeing alien invasions,
Be interesting.
and they're because we've seen them, sort of these whistleblowers and all of this, and you just think, right, okay, there's a reason for all of this. Why would you tell a population that and there's a lot of this going on, and I watched some of these videos, and in the end, again, it came to that point where I'm not going to be suckered in, and I'm not going to worry about it.
But the governments are now pushing, aren't they, to stop smoking? They're pushing
Yes.
to reduce the age of
I did a video on this.
Okay.
If you were born from 2009, you cannot buy cigarettes ever. And I thought to myself, well, how are they going to
Enforce that?
Yeah, digital IDs, because we will be with the CBDC. So that's 14-year-olds now. So if you're 14, and let's say you would be able to buy at 16, so presumably in 2 years' time, in place, required in tobacconists, newsagents, supermarkets, they plan CBDCs will be there, and digital IDs or whatever, or at least just digital IDs that you'll go, I want to buy something. Yep, you need to scan it with your card or whatever.
But it runs so much deeper. And I mentioned to you earlier that I try not to wear a shirt. I never wear a tie.
I've got a cravat on. Am I all right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you've got a collar. I mean, what do you do to a slave?
Well, you put them in irons.
Yep.
You maybe bind their hands and feel their
collar around them?
Put a collar around them.
And then
Oh yes, and tie their
Cuffs.
hands. Cuffs and collars.
tie them up. It's a
Ah.
corporation.
Right. That's true. Oh, I'm going to have to get rid of all my shirts now. And what about waistcoats? Because normally I wear waistcoats. but it's-
Waistcoats are okay.
Oh, that's
The tie originally came from the assassins out of Czechoslovakia when the Pope recognised he thought they were quite attractive and therefore adopted that method. But again, I've written all about all that sort
Oh,
of
right.
stuff.
I know that the cravat comes from Croatia,
Yeah.
where the freedom fighters put a red cravat around
Yeah,
them,
not a tie.
not a tie. So I feel quite good about that.
Yeah.
So there we are. Sales of cravats now at Christmas are going to go up. By the way, if you want to send me a cravat at Christmas, you'll be very joking.
I heard a good term the other day, which was this thing that we've been through and experienced has been quite depressing for some, but I'm always very positive about it. I try and look at the good with everything.
Yes.
Because you just reverse the energy, and I'll do something with you later, or I don't know how much longer we got.
I don't know. I haven't been taking note of how long the video is.
But the term was a fool's paradise is a wise man's hell.
A fool's paradise is a wise man's hell.
And us wise people have been through hell.
Yes.
Whereas the other group out there, it's
Yeah.
business as usual.
Yes, that's true. Wow. Powerful stuff.
Well, these old terms and
Well, this
quotes.
is, yeah, absolutely. And you can see how... one of the things that I've noticed is that we just don't think anymore. We don't... We mentioned books. People don't read.
We're told what to think, but
Yes.
not how to think.
Television is programming people, and we are being guided by narratives to go down this path. And I got rid of my television some years ago, and Julia and I read. We do other things. In fact, Julia, only the other day, she said, "Oh, look, I got a hole in my sock." And what I just thought was, sitting in this old-fashioned kitchen, I said, I would just love to get whatever it is that you use to darn the sock for you, sitting by the fire on a nice winter's evening and doing things, just doing things, instead of watching other people enjoy their life, I just think.
But that's what we used to do. Didn't
Yeah.
we? You know, it was about the collective. It was about, I mean, these things and TVs, and I try to reject them. You know, I try to stay away from them. I get an update of how much time I've spent on my phone every week.
Oh, do you?
And I kind of I
Try and get less.
try to get less and less, and then I get a big jump because I've been busy.
My phone has it has the green screen. Every now and again, I get that screen, and I can't turn it on. And it was like, oh, I better get another phone. It's going. Actually, this might be my salvation, because if it dies, that's great. Maybe I move on. But then so many people join you to WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups, and
But this phone stuff. You see, the origin of Phoenicia was those who were excellent with language and could play tricks with language. So the Phoenicians eventually became the Venetians, but the Phoenicians being sound specialists. But we're still using these terms today, because if you pick up a telephone, Phoenicia,
Phoenicia.
and,
Yes.
and if you lie to me, you're
Yes.
a phony.
Yes.
So the sounds are really important in terms of knowing this stuff. And we've all been drawn away from it, you know, far, far, far away from it.
Yes.
But like everything I do, I try not to do the doom and gloom stuff.
No.
And then leave people.
And
'cause
then
that's
leave,
not
so
fair.
you raise them up
So
a
I
bit.
raise them up a bit. But we could do a little experiment now if you want.
Yeah, please do.
So this is the back of book 2.
The design, I have to say, is really beautiful. You know, the stopper.
What it
Where did
is,
that come from?
that's called leet speak. It's a communicative language within mathematics in computing, but a psychopath can't read it,
Really?
which is why I put it on the book.
Ah, that's interesting. And now, before we do that, tell us about, and I can't remember if we said that here, I don't think we did, I think when we were chatting in the front room, you told me about how your books have been travelling around the world.
Yeah, on the first batch, I've got some wonderful stories with this. This thing's brought me great joy, even though it's the horror that I'm having to expose.
Yes.
But it's brought me great joy because the thousands and thousands of emails I've had, letters, people have sent me books, there are some beautiful people out there, and they want to help.
Yes.
You know, they want to help, and I was contacted by a guy in Gibraltar. I think it was book 46, 40. Anyway, he contacted me. He said, I want to buy a copy of your book because I found this book on a seat, a bus stop seat in Gibraltar.
In Gibraltar?
And somebody had written on the front, you know, with those machines you write the words out with.
Oh, one of those
Yeah.
plastic sort of,
And it
gosh,
said-
that goes back a bit.
Yeah, it said, pick me up, learn from me, pass me on.
Wow.
And the guy said the book's falling apart, but people have written all sorts of, put stamps in it, and so I said, well, look, just send me the book, and I'll get you a fresh copy. So I sent him 5 because that's kind of how I work.
Yeah, lovely.
And when I got the book, it started out in Heathrow Airport, and then it went to Los Angeles.
And you know that because people were written in the back.
What airport they were at.
Oh,
so
I
it was
see.
obviously being left at airports.
Wow.
And so it went to Los Angeles, then it went to Dublin, then it went to Johannesburg, then it went to Malawi, then it went somewhere else, and then it went, and it's just this extensive list of where the book would travel.
That is amazing.
And then it ended up on a seat in Gibraltar at a bus stop.
Ha.
So and I've got loads of those sort of stories.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful thing when people get what I'm trying to do, or get the message that's in there.
Yes.
But within this book, it's about being positive.
Right.
So I want you to read something.
Okay.
Bearing in mind, I want this to be positive.
Yes, of course.
So-
Now, let me just say, you did send me, my viewer actually sent me these 2 books, and I got about 3 chapters in, and then I sort of stopped because, and that's why I thought
It's really difficult, the first 3 chapters,
yeah, so I haven't read the back bit.
because I've got to set the mind up for where I'm going, and then when you get beyond the difficult bit, things start dropping in.
Oh, okay, because the first one I read, cover to cover, and it was one of those can't put it down
Yeah.
books. And then there's so much in it, and you're going, God, how am I going to remember this? But fortunately, it's a book, and it's not going to be deleted from my computer, because it's a real thing.
Yep.
Right, so you've got this poem, and so here we go. So, I am very ugly, so don't try to convince me that I am a very beautiful person, because at the end of the day, I hate myself in every way. And I'm not going to lie to myself by saying that there is beauty inside of me that matters. So rest assured, I will remind myself that I am a worthless, terrible person, and nothing you say will make me believe I still deserve love, because no matter what, I am not good enough to be loved, and I'm in no position to believe that beauty does exist within me, because whenever I look in the mirror, I always think, am I as ugly as people say? Yeah, that's very positive,
Yes,
Gary.
fantastic. Now read it again.
Read it
but
again?
Line for line,
Yeah.
from the bottom up.
Oh, right, okay. Am I as ugly as people say? Because whenever I look in the mirror, I always think beauty does exist within me. I've got it. And I am in no position to believe I am not good enough to be loved, because no matter what, I still deserve love. And nothing you say will make me believe that I am a worthless, terrible person. So rest assured, I will remind myself there is beauty inside me that matters. And I'm not going to lie to myself by saying I hate myself in every way, because at the end of the day, I am a very beautiful person. So don't try to convince me that I am very ugly. That is brilliant.
Love you, man.
That is and do you know what? Curious, it was harder to read the first time than the second time. I mean, it's not like I familiarised myself with it, but the second time, and you can play that back, I stumbled on the first reading, the negative, but when it was positive, it's so much easier. Yeah, it flowed. There's power in that. But that is amazing.
And that's the position we're in. We're in a position where everyone's sort of doom and gloom. Oh no, oh no, oh no. We look at it a different way. Once we crack their codes, once we break the gestalt, which I explain, once we snap out of this kind of negative energy, and we recognise what they're doing,
yes,
then we've won the game.
We've won the game. That is amazing. Now, you said to me, and you came in with a big bag full of books.
Yep.
You said, I'm happy to give a giveaway.
Yeah.
Which is extremely generous. Now, I'm not quite sure how we can do this, other than I suppose people have got to find...
In the comments, go to every fifth person, or go, or randomly, And if you need more, I'll
yes,
bang a load more for you.
Now, I know some people will say, oh, but the comments, every time I put anything in the comments, it disappears. Please don't put links in the comments, because they do end up having to be approved, and it takes a bit of time, and sometimes they get taken out. Or you can email me and put...
Yeah, I mean, people, if they're on Amazon, but I'm coming off Amazon, surely, because they're a circus full of clowns, really.
Yes. If you put stopper into the subject line, because I love that, putting a stopper.
It's about it, because on the front it's a bottle that's full of poison.
Yeah.
So what I do is I take the stopper out, I empty it, and I get people to unlearn, then relearn. In effect, adding your own energy into it once you know what's going on, and then it's yours in your soul, I suppose.
So I guess this will just have to be for the UK only.
Well, if people want to buy directly from me, it's Gary Fraughen, Fraughen. So it's garyfraughen.co.uk. My wife sends them out all over the world.
But with our book giveaway, we've only got a limited number. It might be 10 or whatever it is. So I'll send them to the UK addresses only, because I'm not made of money. But I will willingly send them if you put stopper in the subject line and put your address or a PO box, whatever, if you feel confident on that. And I will send them to you as quickly as I can, which may, it's just a question of... it'll be first come, first served, of course, and... or if it's a huge number, anyway, I'll work it out. It may be randomly generated or what have you, but I can't.
And book 3 is nearly there now, and that is the New World Order and the occult, and that's going to be a. I think it's the better out of the 3, actually.
When it's done, come back.
We'll give a load more away.
And and tell us about that and all of that. What an amazing conversation, and I can absolutely vouch for these books. This one I'm going to persevere now, because as I said, because numbers, again, people get phased by numbers, and it does take me a bit of time. There's a picture of a turtle there, look at that. But the thing is, there's so much in it. So if you want to see a great unveiling, do check out. I'll put a link in the description anyway if you just want to buy it. Gary, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'm going to have a cup of coffee and drive another 2 hours in the rain, but really
gosh.
kind of you.
Yes, I will get the coffee on immediately. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us in the kitchen. It's always lovely to do it in person in the kitchen with the warmth of the glowing. It'll be cold when we go out. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. But in the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and talk to you soon.
Namaste.
What he said.